Did you guys find yourself out at any kind of a protest over the weekend downtown or at the Tesla dealer on State Line Road? Because, man, they were popping over the weekend.
Well, there was all kinds of things to go to, but like last time, I found myself with nothing to wear, so I just stayed home, avoided it all.
How about you there, Mark?
I was with the Sporting KC supporters group protesting Peter Vermees and his terrible season.
So that's the protest that you were at. Well, I did not partake either, but apparently hundreds of people at these two protests across Kansas City over the weekend. 6:05, good morning. It is great to have you here on KCMO, kicking off another Monday. So let's start downtown, where there were protests to March for Democracy. Like we've never heard that one before. The March for Democracy, seemingly every time there's a Republican in charge, there's a March for Democracy. But then when Joe Biden is telling the Supreme Court to basically pound sand, no one's the same people are magically not marching for democracy. I can't quite figure that one out. But here we are. Over the weekend, protests downtown. Here was KCTV5's report.
One Army veteran traveled from Illinois to join what they called a March for Democracy.
I want them to restore the services that the vets need and the money to these services so our vets can get the health care, the mental health care that they deserve. We put it on the line for them. Now they need to come through for us.
The country feels like it's going into a spiral down. So many people fired, so many people hurt.
So first off, I would ask that first guy who was talking to KCTV5, what services have been dropped off that you want to see restored? I would say Republicans certainly agree that we need to take care of our veterans, right? I mean, that's like kind of been a tenet for the Republican Party for a very long time. They're not out there looking to cut benefits to veterans. They might make a mistake or two in their Doge cuts, but any cut that's going to come to a veteran service is going to be restored immediately. It's just a talking point, is all that is. And then you hear that second person downtown. Oh, I just feel like our country's, it's spiraling, man. Oh, the cuts. Well, here's what we actually have numbers-wise on the cuts. It's about 2.7 million federal employees. And thus far, I'm reading this from March 28th, Friday, from the New York Times. The confirmed cuts thus far have been 49,110. That's the number. Okay? And that may also include people who left their jobs willingly, who were put on a temporary leave. Some, yes, have been fired. Some of them are jobs that were just opened, never filled, that they said, we're taking this one off the table. So look at that. That is about 1.8% thus far of the workforce that has had some impact in some small way, shape, or form. And they act like, half the federal workforce is sitting out on the streets looking for a job. We're talking about less than 2%. Those are the numbers, and that's the thing. These protesters never have numbers. They just have feelings. And as Ben Shapiro, our longtime friend here on KCMO Talk Radio, has infamously said, facts do not care about your feelings. They don't, they never will. And it's funny because I watched all the local news packages on these protests and rallies over the weekend, and they were filled with feelings and short on facts. The Kansas City Star wrote about this over the weekend, and here's what they write. Their headline, "This is what democracy looks like. Thousands protest Trump administration at KC March." They open up the piece here, writing, "Thousands gathered to march for democracy in downtown Kansas City on Saturday, voicing concerns about what several marchers called an overreach by the federal government on citizens' rights. Furrowed brows, smiles, shouts, and tears occupied the faces of passionate protesters who bellowed chants that echoed off the concrete sky-rise buildings." Are you kidding me? What is this, the opening of a William Faulkner overwritten novel here? Oh, my gosh. The faces of passionate protesters whose tears bellowed chants that echoed off the concrete sky-rise buildings that were also, spattered with blood from the night before from homicides all over the place. Like, what are we doing here? The over-dramatization of the way this is being described with a handful of angry people who just want to see the government balloon into oblivion, who just want to dive headfirst off the fiscal cliff. They're not serious people. They're not. Because anybody who's been paying attention to where the federal government is at right now, anybody who's been looking at this and had some type of ability to strip out the partisan politics knows what DOGE is doing actually needs to be done, like desperately needs to be done. And it's not one of those things that you can say is Republican versus Democrat. If you care about the country, you have to then care about this. I know the media has built this up as Democrat versus Republican, but it's really not. What's your answer in the solving $36 trillion in debt? What's your answer to a $2.5 trillion annual deficit? And don't tell me Elon Musk has to pay more in taxes. Once again, facts don't care about your feelings and the math doesn't work. So you tell me what you're doing. You tell me what your plan is. You want to look at the Defense Department? I will gladly look at that too. I guarantee you there's waste there as well. I'm happy to do that. I'll give you that. Democrats have been wanting to cut the Pentagon, or at least parts of it, for a long time. I'll give you that. Let's find some waste in the Pentagon. I'm happy to give you that. I'm happy to have that conversation. What are you going to give me? What are you going to give those of us who say this problem is so big? If you care about the future of the country and you truly want to march for democracy, you should be in part marching for this. But of course, that's not the name of the game that they're playing. Any dollar that is cut to the federal government, the world is ending. The country can't survive. That's basically the approach that they've taken here. And frankly, I know they're trying to drum up enthusiasm for their base, but I don't think this is working or will work with the people that they need to win back over. Tim is in Kansas City. He's on KCMO. Tim, good morning. What's happening, buddy?
Hey, I just wanted to comment on the protests about that one guy that said he was from the military and that I'm a veteran. I go to the VA here in Kansas City. They haven't cut anything. I mean, I can still go see my psych, and I can go see my regular doctor, and I don't know what the deal is. I got a feeling maybe that guy was just another paid person to say he was in the military or something, or a guy who doesn't even use it.
Yeah, and I think that was the guy they talked about who came from Illinois to Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm sure there's protests in Illinois, too. So,
yes. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few of those in the Chicago area he could have gone to, right?
Yeah. You know, and I would like to see DOGE come to Kansas City, really. So, I work at the airport, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on with money and everything else. So I'd like to get to the bottom of it at Kansas City, Missouri.
Well, we got to get the right people in charge to do it, Tim. Thanks for your service, man. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, let's go to Jeff. What's up? He's in Kansas City. Hey, Jeff.
Good morning. The thing is, like your Planned Parenthood and all these outfits that get money from the federal government, they loop a lot of it back to the Democrat Party for their political contributions, their PACs, and all those things. And there's a lot of payback. It's kind of like a mob-run deal. Mm-hmm. They're always going to give them their vig on the back side of it to make sure that they keep getting funded on the front side. But, it's a game. But the other thing is you guys did a package on it the other day, I think, where you were talking about Obama was covering he was talking about making all these cuts, and then all of a sudden the Democrat stronghold, the old line, didn't want him making any of those cuts, and they put the kibosh on it. I think you talked about it the other morning, like Thursday, and you guys went into great detail about it, and that was something that I'd kind of forgotten, but it's true. If you don't get to the bottom of this now, it's just going to get worse, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts, except it's worse.
Well, it's cutting off. It's cutting off. You're right, Jeff. It's cutting off the hand that feeds them, and that's what they're scared to death of. These NGOs, these nonprofit organizations, many of which get funded through the federal government, or at least a portion funded through the federal government. They do not want anybody like Doge looking under the hood of the car. They want no part of that, because they know there's a lot that the American people are going to find out about, that they're going to say, I've been funding what? And, I don't have the evidence that there's paid protesters all over these rallies in the Tesla dealership in downtown on Saturday. But I'll tell you right now, it feels very, very fabricated and very, very forced. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio, there is one thing that keeps getting floated out there from the president where I'm saying to myself, why this and why now? I'll tell you what that is next on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
So we just goofed and spent a lot of time, mocking this bizarre March for Democracy in downtown Kansas City over the weekend. But I will say this much. Trump should not give them any ammunition. The president of the United States does not need to be telling Kristen Welker of NBC's Meet the Press that, he's not joking around about a potential third term. Don't do it. Don't give them the ammunition where they can say, see, he's going for the dictator spot. He doesn't care about the country. We must march for democracy because this man is not satisfied serving 2 terms. I would just say don't do it. So this came over the weekend. NBC's Kristen Welker had a phone call with the president yesterday, and he told her, a lot of people want me to do it, meaning run for a third term. Trump claimed that there are methods which you could do it, including having J.D. Vance run for president with Trump as his VP, and then J.D. would resign to allow Trump to be back in the top job. Oh, my gosh. JD, you didn't know what you signed up for, bro. Oh, man. See, it's like I'm just sitting here laughing at it because it's so bizarre. But here's what it does. It will actually drum up wild enthusiasm within the Democratic base. And if you're Trump and you're trying to have a super successful 4 years here to close out your time in the White House, you don't want to give them ammunition for their base to then win back the House in 2026 and basically try to stop you at every turn during your final 2 years in office, which could be a historic term in office if you can accomplish a lot of what you're trying to accomplish, John.
He's a little ahead of schedule, isn't he? This is maybe a third-year type comment.
Yes.
Going into the third and fourth year.
This is a January of 27 conversation, okay? This is not a March of 25 conversation with NBC's Kristen Welker of Meet the Press, who's going to do you absolutely no favors. Like, this is not, if you want to give Democrats a reason to be enthused going into the midterms next year, and they've got an 18-month runway to do that, start talking about running for a third term. That'll get them juiced up. So, this came up a couple of months ago, and it was largely viewed as just trolling. Trump just kind of trolling his, early days in office, saying, yeah, who knows, I might do it again. And I also understand why he doesn't want to be quickly perceived as a lame duck. But it doesn't matter if you're perceived as a lame duck if you have the House and the Senate on your side, right? It's only when the other party has power in the House or the Senate where you being a lame duck can impact your ability to get things done, mostly speaking, because Trump has such high approvals within the Republican Party. So what do you have to do? You have to maintain your party's power in the House, and the Senate's less of a concern in 26 just based on how the seats and the open seats are kind of made up right now. Senate's most likely, barring some kind of disaster, is going to stay in Republican hands. You got Roger Marshall here in Kansas up. I think he's the only local one that's going to be up in 26 is Roger Marshall. And he's, barring something unforeseen, going to be safe. And Roger Marshall also is going to be on the show this morning at 8 o'clock. So look forward to that conversation coming up in about 90 minutes. But the House is where you say, okay, Sharice Davids in Kansas safe, Emmanuel Cleaver, the musty moo-moo himself.
Mustard moo-moo.
He's basically set for life in that seat. Sharice Davids getting close to that point as well. But Democrats only have to win over 2 or 3 seats to win back the House of Representatives. Trump does not need to be sitting there saying, you know what, let me give these guys some juice. Let me tell them how I might run for a third term and give that news story to NBC's Kristen Welker, of all people. What are we doing here on that front? Why? What's the point of that? 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO. Let's go to Stephen in Kansas City. What's up, Stephen?
Pete, when I have breaking news, the first person I will contact is Kirsten Wilker.
Oh, that's great.
You gotta love it. I mean, I agree with you. The best part is that it doesn't seem to be affecting anything. That the polls, according to Breitbart, the polls are still holding the exact same level of support, no matter what he says. I think it's sort of baked in the cake. It's locked in. Even the Musk thing is having no effect. So, I mean, that's a good thing. But like you said, you don't want complete unforced errors. I mean, it's funny to us. I mean, it's hilarious to us, but it probably doesn't look great to doesn't look great on the whole. But that's what kind of makes you love the guy, because sometimes he just can't help himself. He can't help himself to just kind of needle the idiots over at NBC and Meet the Press. I mean, that's what I.
Well, they've got their storylines set up for the entire week now, right? I mean, they're good to go.
Right.
They've got the easiest job in America
it might
now.
Be worth it. It feels like it's worth it sometimes, but it may not be worth it in the like you said, for the whole week to have them saying all that stuff.
No, it's thank you, Stephen. Have a good week, buddy.
All
It's just it'll make us chuckle. It's fine for talk radio, but it's really not worth it at all politically. So let's skip out on that. Now, speaking of politically, something happened in an apolitical moment that turned political. We'll tell you about next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Well, it has been a news-making few weeks for Saturday Night Live. I will give them that much. Over the weekend, Morgan Wallen was there as one of the co-hosts, and he caused some controversy that to me was much to do about absolutely nothing. So Morgan Wallen wraps up Saturday Night Live, and I guess as is par for the course, he gives his little co-host there a hug, and then he just walks off the stage towards the camera with the entire cast behind him. Here's, you got to see it really, but here's just 10 seconds of what it sounded like.
Thank you so much to Morgan Wallen. I had a wonderful time. Thank you all.
And then, everyone's on stage kind of hugging and waving, and he walks off stage towards the camera and just pieces out. See you later. Now, his people are saying that this is just a misunderstanding. They said that this was the way that he entered and exited the studio all week long during rehearsals. So he just walked off the stage after giving his co-host, Mikey Madison, a hug and just said, all right, see you later. Now, what added fuel to this fire was he put up an Instagram story a couple hours later of his private jet that said, "Get me to God's country." Of course, leaving New York City, picture of his jet saying, basically, "Get me the hell out of here as quickly as you can."
Yeah.
Exactly. A big old GTFO for Morgan Wallen.
To the Big Apple.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I believe this. Well, it was just an innocent misunderstanding of exiting the stage. I do think a part of him was maybe trying to send a message of man, get me out of this place. But it was some cause for controversy over the weekend. Now, you may recall Morgan Wallen was invited a few years ago to do Saturday Night Live. But what happened is this was in October of 2020, 7 months into the pandemic. He was asked to be the musical guest on an episode of SNL. But days before he was scheduled to perform, footage went viral across social media, showing Morgan Wallen not wearing a COVID mask at an Alabama football game and celebrating with women at a bar afterwards. People who supported masks and social distancing during the pandemic were outraged. He was then removed from the scheduled SNL appearance. And he apologized in a video later on that was shared online. So I don't know why he returned. I get it. He's got a new album coming out. And even though SNL doesn't have the pull and the reach that it used to have, it's still good attention for anybody looking to promote a new album. But it felt like a guy who was just there because his managers were like, "You should probably do this." And he's like, "Fine, I'll do it. But I'm getting the heck out of there as quickly as I can, John."
I think it was mutually beneficial. I think SNL needs some controversy.
Yeah.
They need a little bit of America watching the show again.
Yes.
But I'm like, Morgan, hey, that's the way I went out every day. Now, they didn't say that they yelled at him every day. Don't do that.
Yeah,
when
that's
it comes
true.
to the show, they didn't say he wasn't reprimanded. He just said he did it that way every day. And so, to your point, there may have been a message there, but they both need each other.
Well, I would agree, and that's an excellent point. SNL needs more of Americana watching that show, and Morgan Wallen benefits by getting his music out in front of an audience that may not otherwise watch his stuff. And the controversy benefits both sides here. But I'm still Team Morgan.
I'll take earned media for 20 here because we're talking about it today.
That's so true.
But we're going, go Morgan.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, he also ended his song, which should not be controversial at all. But, of course, some people were freaking out because he said the word God during his performance over the weekend.
Praise the Lord and go Vols, baby.
Praise the Lord and go Vols. Now, of course, the Vols, the Volunteers, lost to Houston. The Vols, they might have stayed up late watching SNL on Saturday.
Maybe that's it.
Because they got crushed by the Houston Cougars in that Elite Eight matchup yesterday. They were down 29-8 at one point. The Volunteers set an NCAA tournament record for the fewest points scored in any NCAA tournament game by a number 1 or a number 2 seed in the first half with only 15 points.
I couldn't believe that. I looked at the score and I was like, this is unbelievable.
I mean, this was a team that was one of the best offensive teams in the country all season. They couldn't buy a bucket. So they clearly did not get Morgan Wallen's message from Saturday night on SNL, where he's like, praise the Lord and go Vols. It's like, yeah, they didn't show up for you yesterday, man. They got smoked in the Elite Eight. So that was kind of, from a Morgan Wallen perspective, a disappointing weekend. He goes on SNL. He's somewhat controversial, and then his Vols get blown out on Sunday. Now, speaking of God, back here in Kansas, 4 people were arrested after a satanic ritual turned violent at the Kansas State House on Friday. The Kansas Highway Patrol said that satanic grotto leader Michael Stewart, 42 years old, along with 3 others, were taken into custody. One of those arrested includes a 21-year-old man who got into a heated fight with Stewart on the first floor of the Capitol Rotunda. So there was video of Stewart being arrested. He made his way into the Capitol building to recite prayers to Satan, despite warnings from state officials and police. The 21-year-old man attempted to snatch the ritual documents out of Stewart's hands. The fight escalated, and Stewart threw a punch at the man. Both Stewart and the man were arrested for disorderly conduct. The Kansas Highway Patrol said the other 2 people followed Stewart into the State House and were arrested for unlawful assembly. Now, this guy Stewart, this satanic leader, was out of jail on Friday night. So we are going to have on Susan Humphreys. She's a member of the Kansas legislature at 8:30. She was there watching this bizarre Kansas Black Mass that took place at the State House on Friday late morning, early afternoon, to give us some insight into what exactly happened and how this went down. But this was about 11:30 on Friday morning. Satanic Grotto founder Michael Stewart made his way to the security checkpoint at the visitor's entrance on the north side of the State House. He was entering, he said, as a private citizen, but not to perform any activities associated with the event. So this guy shows up, he sponsors this Black Mass Friday morning, and then ends up getting detained. The good news is there were hundreds of individuals representing Christian groups who also entered the State House at about the same time and could be heard reciting the Hail Mary. And from what I could tell in seeing some of the social media clips on Friday morning, early afternoon, there actually were far more Christians there to combat the satanic Black Mass than there were Satanists. So that is a great sign, and I think in the end, that makes this state and this community look really good. But Susan Humphreys was there at Ground Zero on Friday, and she is going to be joining us coming up later this morning at 8:30 on KCMO Talk Radio. In the meantime, 1 hour from now, we will have tickets to meet Dave Ramsey here on KCMO. Dave Ramsey is coming to Kansas City with Dr. John Deloney for their Money and Marriage event. That is on May 9th at the Music Hall here in Kansas City. And we are giving away tickets all week long at 7:45 on our show and at 10:45 with Kevin Keatsman. And 2 of our winners this week will also win VIP meet and greet tickets with Dave Ramsey and Dr. John Deloney before the event on May 9th. So your first chance to win this week is 1 hour from now at 7:45. Set the alarm here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. In the meantime, the 6 at 6, top 6 stories you got to know in the 6 a.m. hour is next. Pete Mundo on 95.7 FM, KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM.
Monday morning, great to be back. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, and glad you're here with us on KCMO Talk Radio. You know, I was just thinking about this right before the mic came on. When you got 3 little kids, I don't even remember what I did this weekend. Like, it's all just one big blur. And then I was like, oh, yeah, Claire had her first soccer game, which they won 7-3, but they don't keep score. It's kindergarten. But it's funny because the girls are now obviously able to count. So they're like, we're winning. And I'll say this much. I'm 1-0 as an interim coach from last year, and now I'm 1-0 as an assistant coach. So maybe I could be the next Sporting KC coach if things keep going my way.
Yes, they'll be looking for you.
I'm sure they will. Thank you very much, guys.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
All right, number one story here this morning. Police are investigating a homicide after they found a 21-year-old man shot in a neighborhood near 2 Olathe schools on Saturday night. This was near Santa Fe Middle School and Washington Elementary School, right there off Ridgeview, and obviously a place where you're not typically going to see homicides happening. Victim taken to a nearby hospital, pronounced dead. Detectives have contacted a 25-year-old man who was taken into custody, and charges as of right now are pending. Police say there's no current threat to public safety, but this case does remain under investigation, you know, given how unusual a situation would be like this in this part of town.
Number 2.
Well, the March for Democracy in downtown Kansas City over the weekend, combined with another protest at the Tesla dealership on State Line Road. So Democrats are engaging their voters. They're trying to rile up their voters. They're trying to also create a false narrative within the media that everybody is against Doge by having these protests take place that then get covered by newspapers and local TV news and radio. But understand, this is just a formula that they have used for years now, right? I mean, every time a Republican is in office, go back to, you know, the Occupy Wall Street days, right? Late in the Bush administration, that leaked into the Obama years. But it was the same mentality, you know, first term of Donald Trump, same exact thing. Create these moments that are clearly fabricated with people from out of town. You had people downtown in Kansas City who said they came here from Illinois on the local news. We played that clip for you. And make it seem like if you're not on their side, you're the crazy one. You're not the crazy one. I promise you, John, you're not the crazy. They're nuts. They're crazy.
Hundreds of people in a city of 2.5 million people protested. More people went to the return counter at Target this weekend.
Yes. And as you note, too, and as we just discussed, of those hundreds, we know at least a percentage were not even Kansas Cityans. They're not even from here. So take this all with a massive grain of salt, and we will have more on these protests coming up next hour. I promise you that. We will have much more coming your way here on KCMO Talk Radio. It's just, but it's all about creating the narrative that, oh man, the people have turned on Doge, the people have turned on Trump, they've turned on Elon. Meantime, CBS News has a poll out. It dropped yesterday that showed Trump's approval at 50%, 5-0. So we'll get to that next hour as well. But those two stories did dominate the weekend news here in this town.
Number 3.
Well, this one just kind of stood out to me. It was down in Oklahoma, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, outside of Tulsa. Former NFL player LaShawn Johnson has been indicted for allegedly operating a large dogfighting venture that resulted in authorities seizing 190 dogs, considered the most ever taken from one person in a federal dogfighting investigation, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Now, he's from Broken Arrow. He has now been charged, LaShawn Johnson, with possessing the pit bull-type dogs for use in an animal fighting venture and for selling, transporting, and delivering a dog for use in an animal fighting venture, according to the department. But this just got national news here over the weekend after it broke late last week. He spent a decent amount of time in the NFL in the late 90s, Packers, Cardinals, and Giants for a little bit, but now at 54 years old is running dogfighting rings. So not exactly Michael Vick because he wasn't playing and not nearly as famous, but still, I thought that was a story that surprised me when I'm thinking about, that guy. Oh, yeah, that guy. Okay.
Number 4.
Let's go to Donald Trump. He says that he is not joking about a third term in comments made to Kristen Welker, NBC News, on a Sunday morning phone call saying a lot of people want me to do it. Now, of course, he can't do it. 22nd Amendment makes it very clear that no person shall be elected to the office of the presidency more than twice. However, Trump believes there's a loophole. What is that loophole? That loophole is J.D. Vance runs in 28, Trump's his VP, and then J.D. steps down. Oh, my gosh. What are we doing here, guys? What are we doing? And little did J.D. Vance know that he apparently joined the mob when he agreed to be Trump's VP. It's like, what's he going to do? Say no, right? If he says no, his political career is over. He has no political future if he says no to this idea, if this idea does have any traction. But for Trump, like, brother, I voted for you 3 times. We love what you're trying to do here. But let's drop the third term talk, please. And if we're going to do this, even if it's tongue-in-cheek, can we save it until after the midterms? Can we not give the Democrats more ammunition to run on and drum up their base over? Like, let's just avoid this for now, even if it's just a casual troll to Kristen Welker on a Sunday morning, please.
Number 5.
Number 5, a new book. Jonathan Allen has a new book called Fight: Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. And it's around the staff dynamics between VP Harris and President Biden. Aides to Kamala Harris. This is part of the book. Assumed, and this is in the book, I'm going to read the excerpt right here. Aides to Kamala Harris, the VP who assumed the nomination, then lost to Trump, strategized around the possibility that Joe Biden might die in office. Such planning was led by Jamal Simmons, Harris's White House communications director, and went as far as the drawing up of a death pool roster of federal judges who might swear Harris in. They literally had a strategy to get Kamala Harris sworn in if Joe Biden died in office. But yeah, everything was totally fine. It was all good. Yep, nothing to see here.
Number 6.
And last but not least, well, the Final Four is set. That's right. The Elite Eight games wrapped up yesterday. Houston beat Tennessee. Auburn beat Michigan State. So next Saturday, we have 4 number 1 seeds. Florida, Auburn, Houston, and Duke in that order playing each other on Saturday night. There's your 6 at 6 on KCMO. Coming up, what's happening at the Tesla dealership at State Line, we'll tell you next. I would have made it over to the Tesla dealer for the big dopey protest on Saturday, but I have a life, I have kids, I've got soccer to coach, I've got, a little basketball to watch. I've got yard work to do, just normal people things that we all try to do on the weekends when we have some free time. I'm doing that. I'm not standing on State Line Road screaming at innocent Americans who own an electric vehicle that the people who are protesting loved up until 5 minutes ago. That's the amazing part. 7:05, it is great to be here on a Monday. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Weather on Saturday was outstanding. So it gave these folks a little more ammunition to show up on State Line Road and protest Tesla dealers. And all this is, let's be very clear, all this is an effort to intimidate Elon Musk, to try to get him to basically leave Doge and get back to Tesla. That's it. That's the name of the game. And really, they also are hoping that these Tesla dealers will now start pressuring Musk to leave Doge to basically help themselves. Now, here's the thing. I believe that Elon is the face of Doge, but Doge is going to continue on whether Elon's there or not. And the other part of this that needs to be factored into the equation, as we learned late last week, Elon's the face of Doge, but there are some incredibly bright and highly successful people who are doing, let's be honest, most of the work on behalf of Doge that Elon is not doing. Elon is involved, I believe, in the day-to-day, but he's not getting his hands dirty like a lot of these people are below him. When you've got the 43-year-old co-founder of Airbnb, who's worth $8 billion, saying, yeah, I'm helping out Doge to give back to my country. You've got people who are tech whizzes who helped Elon build Tesla, who work with him at SpaceX, who work with him at X, helping out Doge. Doge can outlive Elon Musk. And that's what these protesters on State Line Road over the weekend don't understand. And maybe don't even want to understand. Because frankly, I don't know how bright they are if they can really understand this concept.
And I don't see anyone protesting at Airbnb.
No.
Even though that guy's one of the main guys to help out.
I am waiting for them to begin the Airbnb protest next, John.
And I'm wondering what they think the outcome's going to be. This isn't like going out in the streets and protesting the war.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. I know. That's the other part of it as well.
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, if Elon goes away, Doge continues.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying here, man.
Right.
It's like, guys, what are you trying to accomplish?
He could sell Tesla and come up with a whole other thing, right?
He could. He could.
That's I'm like, what do you think is going to happen? What is it that you want?
Well, here's what, I don't know if the people protesting know this, but I think that the puppet masters are looking at this and trying to impart, drum up Democratic enthusiasm amongst the base.
Foment unrest.
Yes, I think that's a big part of it. And then also create the public perception that everybody hates Doge when the data and the polling doesn't back that up. And we've gone through it now for weeks on end. Here's part of the KCTV5 package from State Line Road over the weekend where they talked to a couple of these protesters, and I promise you, we are not at any risk of having new Mensa members joining after this weekend.
And the anti-Elon Musk protests continue across the country today, including another one here in Kansas City. This is a look at this afternoon's Tesla takedown rally. Protesters at this rally are concerned about Musk's involvement in the Trump administration's efforts to downsize the federal government.
I'm extremely worried. I'm extremely worried about what's happening in our country. I think we have months, not years, to save what's our democracy. And the fact that I see it here, this many people, is inspiring.
Oh, yes, we have months, not years, to save the democracy. If you think that the democracy can only be saved by not looking for waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government, then what exactly do you think the government's job is? I mean, remember, that is the ultimate goal of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Obama and Biden supported this idea early in their tenure in the White House. I mean, Obama talked extensively about it. We played the audio over the last couple of weeks. This is not about it's not supposed to be about something that's super hyper partisan. It's not the goal here. It became that when suddenly an entire political party said, we are opposing this, no matter what you guys find. And frankly, at that point is when you ask yourself, gosh, maybe there's more here than even we realized. If an entire political party is going to oppose the idea of trying to find waste, fraud, and abuse and create more efficiency in the federal government, then all of a sudden you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, at least I am, I can't speak for you. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, there might be even more corruption here than a lot of us realized. And why would an entire political party be opposed to potentially investigating and trying to find said corruption? Ask yourself that as we get it going on a Monday morning. And then you have these people who are just standing outside of this Tesla dealership. And, you know, I feel awful for anyone who owns a Tesla. I don't care how you voted. If you show up for I guess they don't get oil changes, right? Let's say you show up for a tire rotation.
Some wipers.
Yeah,
Wiper blades.
whatever. I don't know what you need to do, battery or something. You show up to the Tesla on Saturday. You've got an appointment, right, to get something done, some work done on your car. And you've got guys like that with their clown signs outside of the Tesla dealer. And you're like, I'm just here to get my tires changed. I'm just here to, get a service on my Tesla. And I got to deal with these hooligans standing outside and screaming about Elon Musk and, the threat to the democracy. And we've only got months, not years, to save the country. Like, I know every time one political party is in power and the other one's out, the one that's out of power, tries to drum up that enthusiasm and say, we must save the country. We've got limited time to save the country. I would respect that approach a little bit more if it wasn't so focused on Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, which of all the things that Donald Trump has attempted or done over his first 2 months in office is some of the least offensive and frankly should be most bipartisan. It's not legislation, but most bipartisan policy that he has attempted and effectively thus far implemented. It's just crazy. I mean, you got to get a grip at some point. Now, across the other side of state line, there is something happening in one of the smaller communities that I have not seen get any coverage in Kansas City media. And we will have somebody in studio to talk about that. There is a key deadline this week as well that you do not want to miss out on. And we will cover it and share this story with you next, right here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. And we are always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
We spent a lot of time on this show talking about how developers are certainly trying to flex their muscles in certain parts of our community. It seems like most notably Johnson County, Kansas. And then, of course, they ask for everything under the sun as well to go along with it. And there's a great example of that happening right now in Westwood. We're happy to welcome on and say good morning to Steve Platt. He is here. He is part of the Friends of Westwood Parkland group. Steve, good morning. Tell us what's happening this week. There's a deadline tomorrow. And what's the story here? Because I know it's gotten a little bit of media attention locally, but not much.
Well, we've worked very hard, Pete, to get a vote for the sale of a park that the city incorporated in their planned development, which was against a Kansas statute. And we have a group of individuals who, it's a grassroots effort to educate the residents and ask questions about this developer's deal. And this includes the residents of Westwood, Mission Woods, and Westwood Hills. We all share services, police, and facilities, and are directly impacted by this development. And it started with the rezoning of a planned development for an office complex in a quaint residential neighborhood of Westwood. We've seen developers aiming for Northeast Johnson County and other parts of the county, and they've attempted to steamroll the citizens in the process. It has occurred in Prairie Village. We've seen it in Fairway, Mission with their failed development, and Lenexa, just to name a few. And the incentive is to overdevelop, which often does not fit with the scale and the value of the neighborhood. And it's often accompanied by a taxpayer ask for a TIF, a CID, or an industrial revenue bond.
So right now, all right, so the city wants to sell this park to a developer. Is that what's going on?
There is a land swap with a developer for this land, yes.
And what do they want to exactly put on this land?
They want to put a 4-story office complex.
A 4-story office complex.
300 parking spaces.
Right in Westwood, in what is right now a green space park area.
Right, in a single-family resident area that is just overbuilding this particular section of the city.
Call me crazy, but I'm under the impression right now that office space might be doing a little better, but really since COVID has been getting crushed. So what is is there really a demand for office space at that level in Westwood, Kansas?
Well, that's one of the things about this particular development. It's a planned development. So if the office space doesn't work out, it could be residential, which then totally blows the TIF analysis that they're expecting. And they're going to do this TIF with a general obligation financing bond. And if the revenue doesn't meet the expectations, it's going to be on the residents and the taxpayers of Westwood to make up the difference.
And there's only about 1,700 of them. So, I mean, that could be a pretty big tax hit potentially in Westwood. All right. So what then needs to happen? I know residents have a chance. The deadline's tomorrow. There's a mail-in vote going on right now. What do they have to do?
On the mail-in vote, if you haven't mailed it in, you'll need to take it over to the Northeast Johnson County office at Lamar and Martway. That's where we get our auto tags. That's in Mission, and they need to do it by noon tomorrow.
Okay, so if you are a Westwood resident and you have not filled out your mail-in ballot, you are recommending a no vote on this. Is it a no vote on the sale or the redevelopment?
No vote on the sale.
Okay.
And that will help us to discuss better alternatives for this development.
Okay. And as you see it, I mean, I think this ties into a broader problem that we're seeing, especially in Johnson County, right? Where it seems like the developer community is just running roughshod over these city councils and, as a result, the taxpayers as well.
Well, and let me add this. It says while the city of Westwood's even been pushing this issue along, they're pushing the sale through quietly moving forward to sell City Hall and have it be a part of some future development.
So would there be no City Hall for Westwood?
Well, that hasn't been answered. Those are questions that we need to find
Does
out
Westwood
about.
really need the money that badly?
They say they do.
Really?
So, maybe we can, it's time for the residents to be fully informed and encouraged. And I encourage a watchdog group and maybe even some brave individuals to run for city government seat to follow follow along and see what the planning commissions are being asked and what the city and county council activities are around the county.
Wow. All right. Well, Steve Platt is here, Friends of Westwood Parkland on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. All right. So if you're in Westwood, get those mail-in ballots in. You got to drop them off in Mission by tomorrow at noon, correct?
Correct.
All right. In the last 30 seconds here, Steve, what else do you want to make sure people know?
This is a grassroots group. People have volunteered their time. We've relied on donations. We don't have the finances and power of City Hall behind to spin this story and narrative. We had to go out and educate everybody. And our website is www.friendswwpark.org if you wanted to be informed and get our view of what we haven't been told.
Well, Steve Platt, keep up the good work. We'll be following tomorrow. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Pete.
We've got the good, the bad, and the ugly coming up in 15 minutes. We also have those Dave Ramsey tickets. Don't miss that on KCMO.
from the nation's heartland. It's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
In 10 minutes, we got a chance to meet Dave Ramsey. May 9th, he's going to be in Kansas City at the Music Hall with Dr. John Deloney for their Money and Marriage Tour. So we will give away tickets in 10 minutes, and one of our winners will end up getting to meet Dave and John backstage in the VIP event. So 7:45 and 10:45 all week long, set the alarm for your chance to win on our show, and then, of course, on Keatsman's show next, later this morning, 3 hours from now. Now, we got a new poll that came out. This is in the wake of course, Saturday's protests at Tesla dealerships, including here in Kansas City. You had the March for Democracy downtown as well on Saturday. So marching left and right. Marching. But then the polling comes out. And the polling tells a very different story from what you hear at the marches and the rallies. And what the media tells you is actually going on in this country that may not entirely be true, including right here in Kansas City. While Emmanuel Cleaver's going bonkers, screaming his face off at different events, last week he was pounding the podium on behalf of the post office because, of course, everybody loves the post office, said nobody ever. Well, CBS News drops a poll. Donald Trump's approval rating is sitting at what? 50%, 50. Trump's overall job approval numbers in a March 27th, 28th poll from CBS News and YouGov. Not exactly an organization looking to give the president of the United States the benefit of the doubt. 2 months of Doge is going to kill us all. We need the post office. We need 600,000 employees. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you don't want a fully funded post office, you hate America. I guess it's not working all that well.
Huh.
That's the only conclusion I can come to in here reading this.
Maybe we all have our own lived experience to compare it to, huh? We all have that package floating around the universe somewhere.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, what is Trump most popular on? His immigration policy is actually his most popular policy right now. The Trump administration's program to deport immigrants illegally in the U.S. 58% approve, 42% disapprove. Well, that's certainly not in touch with where, the protesting crowd and the media would tell you things should be right now. That's a little bit out of sorts as well with what you would think based on the media portrayal of these topics. So Trump's handling of immigration in general, above water, 53 to 47, actually better than his handling of the economy, which is 48 approve, 52 disapprove. And Trump's handling on inflation, 44% approve, 56% disapprove. That's why he's really rolling the dice right now with these tariffs this week. He's got positive approval on the immigration issue. His overall approval is at 50%, which for, a guy that historically did not reach that number during his first term in office, you got to look at that and say that's pretty good. The tariffs, depending on how they play out, and I understand what he's going for. Like, we all understand what he's basically saying is we need reciprocal tariffs or no tariffs at all. In a perfect world, no one's got a tariff on us, and we don't have a tariff on anybody else. His point is, if you're going to charge us for our goods coming to your country, why are we not charging you the same for your goods coming into our country when we are the world's largest consumer? I get what he's going for. I do. I see the game plan here. I understand it. But at a time when people already are concerned about higher prices based on the last 4 years, there is a risk associated with all this. You heard Bill O'Reilly talk about it earlier in the hour. And, of course, the markets are a little jittery because of it. Now, overall, the S&P is down, like 4.5%, 5% this year. And for most people invested in just S&P 500 funds, they're not, ebbing and flowing with this market like CNBC is or Fox Business is. They're just not. And for the Wall Street trader class, that's not who Donald Trump is appealing to here with these policies. But there is a little bit of a risk here. maybe the tariffs could have waited. Maybe they should have, waited later in the year, next year, kind of feel like you're getting the economy at large back on track. You're cutting spending. That will reduce inflation. Once you feel like you've got inflation under control, then you say, hey, we're going ahead with these tariffs to try to get equal trade here between the U.S. and other countries. But you know what? We'll see how the week plays out.
Now, you got to balance that with that he's got only so much time here with the Congress and everything.
That's true. He's got a small window.
There's a certain amount of urgency here that maybe suggests that couldn't wait, even though that is the best idea.
Yeah. Although I will say, Congress isn't really involved with any of this.
So much.
They're just kind of sitting there on the sidelines saying, sounds good. They're not really doing much. But here's what's interesting
well, I guess
about...
they could obstruct, though, potentially.
Potentially.
Try to, anyway.
Yeah. Well,
and that's what they do. They just try to obstruct.
They try to, especially, of course, if you get Hakeem Jeffries back as the Speaker of the House. In this CBS News YouGov poll, who is most responsible for today's inflation rate? This is interesting. 38% say Joe Biden's policies. 34% say Donald Trump's policies. 19% say both equally, and 9% say neither. Who's the neither crowd? That's what I want to know. Who do you put into the 9% neither crowd?
Well, it's Putin.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So how you could possibly come to the conclusion that inflation on March 31st is the fault of a guy who showed up 65 days ago, 70 days ago, is mind-numbingly out of touch to me. That you could say that a guy who's been there for 2 months is more responsible for today's inflation than the guy who spent 4 years blowing out the budget and just printing money left and right, and then also trying to bail out student loans when the Supreme Court said he couldn't. I'm not quite sure how you come to that conclusion, but I understand that questions like this are oftentimes answered in a very partisan way. But still, you have more Americans who believe today's inflation is more a responsibility on the back of Joe Biden than it is of Donald Trump, which is the main takeaway here.
Perhaps members of those neither response are the perfect target for our David Ramsey giveaway.
Yeah.
Our Dave Ramsey giveaway here.
Yes.
Coming up in a minute.
Yeah, give it 3 minutes here on KCMO Talk Radio. And then you also have this coming out of the YouGov poll. And this is something that also Trump should be concerned about. Trump's policies are making you financially better off, worse off, the same. In January, 42% said that Trump's policies would make them better off. That number now is down to 23%. Worse off in January, 28%. Now it's 42%. The same, it was 30% in January. It's 35% now. So Trump has seen his numbers of Americans who believe his policies will make them better off financially cut in half. Trump won on the economy. He's got to realize that. And if people do not have confidence in him making them better off economically, even if it's just a perception, it will not be good for his approval numbers or, as a result, the Republican Party in the months and potentially years ahead come 2026. And I know that that's a lifetime away. A lot can change. I'm just saying he's rolling the dice. And he better hope that it pays off, and it pays off in a big way. All right, let's do it right now. Seventh caller to 913-408-7957 will win a pair of tickets to see Dave Ramsey and John Deloney at the Kansas City Music Hall on Friday, May 9th. That show is happening. Tickets are still on sale. And one of our winners this week will get the VIP meet and greet with Dave and Dr. John Deloney. So seventh caller right now to 913-408-7957 will be there at the Music Hall on Friday, May 9th and entered to win the VIP meet and greet with Dave Ramsey and John Deloney before the show. Seventh caller right now, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend is coming up next. Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Stream Mundo in the morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
All right, John, who won the first pair of Ramsey tickets?
We are winning friends and influencing people with free stuff, but we don't have to buy Steve's Love in Lansing. He has us on every day, and he was the winner this time around. First one out of the box.
All
Next
right.
chance to win comes up with KK, Kevin Keatsman.
10:45.
Yes, sir.
All right. Very well done. Congratulations, Steve, in Lansing. We'll do it every week, every day this week at 7:45. And then again at 10:45. Let's roll it on a Monday at 7:50.
It's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on 95.7 FM.
Well, the good from the weekend, you may have missed this Friday going into the weekend, but Donald Trump may have given one of his best answers to a very simple question. And the question was as follows. What is a woman? And here is what the President of the United States had to say.
What is a woman, and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man, I've always found. A woman is a person that doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman's a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women.
You know, you got to give Trump credit for that. First off, the obvious answer is somebody who can give birth. Sorry, not sorry. If you're a dude, you can call yourself whatever you want. You can't give birth. Okay? You just cannot do it. Not apologizing for it. It's a fact. It's a biological fact. The same people that insist trust the science and are still wearing masks in some cases 4 years, 5 years later are also the ones who tell you that somehow a dude can just give birth. I mean, it's a miracle. Are you pooping it out? I don't understand. What are we doing here? No, you can't. I'm sorry. You can't do it. Okay? And then he gives a great line. A woman is smarter than a man. Donald Trump, before his time as a politician, would have been applauded for that line. In fact, many on the other side would have loved that line. But here's the problem. They don't really care about women anymore. They don't. Because as you create the woke pyramid, men who pretend to be women are now higher up on the woke pyramid than just women. So caring about women's rights is like so 20-teens. In 2020s, it's now about guys who want to be chicks who exceed on the woke pyramid scale actual women. So that answer and that line in particular infuriates them. Infuriates them. And I'm just kicking my feet up, smelling the roses and saying, got him once again. The bad from the weekend. Well, Jonathan India plunked in the head yesterday by a 99-mile-an-hour pitch. And it came one pitch after he was brushed back by a 97-mile-an-hour fastball from the Guardians closer. Then he gets hit on the left side of his face with a 99-mile-an-hour cutter in the bottom of the ninth inning. And that capped off a bad weekend for the Royals, who lost 2 or 3 to the Guardians at the K to open up the season. Now, the Royals believe that at this point, it's going to take some further evaluation over the next few days. He was up. He was walking around, according to the manager. But Vinny Pasquantino, he talked after the game. He was not happy with this.
I get it. You're trying to let a pitch ride, and it didn't. And it hit him right in the face after almost hitting him in the face the pitch before. So obviously I'm upset by it. I'm more upset for John because, I mean, we don't know what's going on with him right now. So it sucks. And I don't think there's any – do I think there was intent behind it? Absolutely not. He's trying to go close a ball game, finish a ball game. It did happen, and that sucks a lot. And it felt like there was a lot of and again, scouting reports, different ways of pitching. You got to own the inside part of the plate. It felt like we were moving quite a lot this weekend.
That last line from Vinny Pasquantino, it felt like we were moving quite a lot this weekend. What he's saying there is it felt like we were getting brushed off the plate a lot. Now, this is a potential great storyline to watch between these two teams. You got divisional rivals. They play each other a bunch. Now you have, the new leadoff hitter getting nailed in the face with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball in the final game of the 3-game series. And call me old school. I like this for Major League Baseball. We now have to see what happens next time they play. Is there retaliation? That's always how it's been in baseball. Baseball got a little soft on this stuff the last few years. But you go back to the 90s, never mind the 70s. I'm telling you right now, the next time these two teams play, the Royals should be hitting the leadoff hitter for the Guardians. I'm not saying you put it on his head, but I'm saying you send a message, game 1, first pitch, next game, they play each other.
Yeah, I was going to say Kwan's taking one next time he's their leadoff hitter.
Yeah, so, that's just to hit him in the butt. The second time I've talked about that body part this segment. I didn't see that coming. But just hit him in the tush. Send a message. That's all it takes here, okay? Now, the ugly from the weekend was Friday at the Kansas State Capitol, where there was a black mass held by Satanists. This was pre-planned, and it did end up taking place on Friday. A handful of people were arrested coming out of this black mass in front of the Kansas State Capitol as a way to inflame Christians. The good news in this is that it looks like the number of Christians who showed up as a counter-protest actually outnumbered the Satanists who showed up at the Kansas State Capitol on Friday. So we will hear from Susan Humphreys. She is a member of the legislature who was down there at Ground Zero on Friday. She'll be here at 8:30 on KCMO to give us some more perspective and insight into what exactly went down, what it looked like, and what these Satanists were really trying to achieve. But that was the ugly from the weekend here on KCMO. The good, the bad, and the ugly in the books. Coming up next, Roger Marshall will be here with the latest on Doge, and I will also ask for his response to some criticism he received from Mark Levin next. Well, another week is getting underway, and of course, it is going to be a busy one in Washington, D.C. Senator Roger Marshall, state of Kansas, of course, is here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Senator, good morning. Of course, this week, the tariffs are getting underway according to President Trump, and Kansas City, it looks like, according to a new report here, could be one of the 3 cities impacted most by these tariffs, especially with Canada. What do you make of these and what it could mean for the Kansas economy as a whole?
Yeah, well, good morning, Pete. It's great to be with you on 95.7?
Yes, you got it, 95.7.
Yeah, okay, got it. Want to make sure we get that in, but it is a great week here. It's day number 69 of the Trump administration. Its promises made, promises kept. He said he was going to bring jobs back to America, and that's exactly what we see happening, is that President Trump using these tariffs as one tool to bring those jobs back. I mean, April 2nd is the day he's talking about, is the official day where these come in, they come out, but we are seeing more and more jobs come to America because of this. I think that the people that export these goods into America, they'll eat most of this money. But we're seeing, even just this week, Japan having $1 trillion investment in America with AI. I think Kansas City will benefit from that. I think all over Kansas, folks will benefit from putting these data banks in and bringing in more direct energy as well.
I want to ask you what you did now with the sirens in the background. They were getting louder and louder and louder. It seemed like they were coming after you there for a second. But I guess it is Washington, D.C., so it's just the sound of the environment you find yourself in. So with that being the case, Senator, there was a poll yesterday from CBS that showed the president's approval is at 50%. That's solid. I think he would take that, certainly higher than it's been in his first term. But something that stood out to me is that people were asked, Trump's policies are making you financially better off, worse off, or the same. Right now, the better off percentage comes in at 23. This was down from 42 back in January. How does the messaging then need to change? If you think these tariffs will be beneficial for the economy, people aren't believing that right now, or at least not yet. So what needs to happen to make people buy into this? Because we know Democrats are going to be against everything the president does. But even some Republicans are wondering whether or not this will be beneficial.
Yeah, Pete, there are so many different data points out there. And, the other data point I would show is that more people than ever are saying that the company is going in the right direction. Over this century, we have more people now saying we're going in the right direction, generally speaking, than ever before. If you look at President Trump's agenda, making the border secure, deregulating, driving the price of gas and groceries down, those all pull in that 70% range, no boys and girls sports, all those types of things. I think right now there's so much saber rattling, there's so much fear mongering. The legacy media is penetrating people right now. But I still think at the end of the day that the Trump agenda is going to work. I think this is one more reason why it's so important that we make the Trump tax cuts permanent. That's worth $1,000 a month of Kansans keeping their own hard-earned money. I think there's no tax on tips, overtime, no tax on Social Security. All those things will pull favorably as well. And right now there's a lot of noise out there, a lot of fear-mongering.
Roger Marshall is on KCMO Talk Radio. So over the weekend, there was a big protest, not the first one either, at the Tesla dealership. Technically, it's on the Missouri side, but it's right there on State Line Road. So there were protesters technically on your side of the state. You're seeing this all over the country, but Kansas City has had a lot of these protests at this Tesla dealership. What are you hearing from other folks around the country as these protests at these dealerships are continuing to grow in a way that's supposed to, I guess, pressure Elon Musk to stop with Doge? Or I'm not really sure and clear on what the end game is here, but it's happening right, 5 miles down the road from where we're at right now.
Yeah, so, 10 years ago, Elon Musk was an American hero. He was the brightest person in the world. His Tesla was going to save the planet. And today, Democrats see him as the evil Dr. Death, I guess. Look, I'm happy people have their First Amendment right to protest. I think we always will condemn vandalism. That's what doesn't make sense to me. When the people on the right are upset, we protest, but we don't vandalize. We don't tear things down. I think, again, if you look at the polling, 60% of Americans or more support making the government smaller, downsizing it. And to his credit, he's out there finding all these kinks in the armor. goodness, the government issued over $4 trillion of checks without any accountability over the last 4 to 5 years. So I think that we have to go beyond the hype and look at what we're doing here. We need to balance our budget. $36 trillion in debt. We're going to spend $2 trillion more this year than we take in. And he's trying to help us get to that balanced budget point.
So what about also on that front? I saw that you had a post up on potential cuts coming to HHS, Health and Human Services, which, of course, is now being led by RFK Jr., and the growth in administrators. I mean, people think that any kind of a cut to the government is going to be a service cut to the taxpayer. But it really seems like these things have become jobs programs for adults in large part. So how bloated is that administrative bureaucracy within the HHS? And what would you ideally like to see done on that front?
Right, Pete, well, you nailed it. Under Joe Biden, the number of people employed at HHS went from 82,000 to 92,000. It went from 82 to 92,000. There's 28 agencies within HHS. Think about, CMS, Medicaid, Medicare, and a whole list of others as well. CDC, if I didn't mention that one, as well. So 28 agencies. What Secretary Kennedy told us his plans were to condense those 28 agencies into 15. And you're going to eliminate duplication of services. So think about HR people for 28 agencies. Why not have just 15? Think about legal services, advising all the things that HHS does. Let's take that from 28 down to 15 as well. The IT support. Listen, NIH alone has over 700 IT systems. You look at the CMS org chart, it's 80 pages long. So there's a huge bloat. I think that we want to make sure that we're saving the mission critical jobs and get rid of the bloat, get rid of the administrative functions up here. And again, I think America supports this direction. And then even on the research standpoint, we want to eliminate people that want to research unimportant things. I'll say that, and have a focus on nutrition right now. We want folks researching nutrition. I'm never going to be able to save Medicare and Medicaid if we don't make America healthy again.
Roger Marshall's on KCMO. Last week, a lot of people reached out to us after Mark Levin, who airs on KCMO from 5 to 8, was very critical of your defending Qatar. And this comes as he claims they are collaborating with Iran and sheltering Hamas leaders. And he called you a puppet for Qatar. How would you respond to Mark Levin and his comments last week here on KCMO and across the country?
Yeah, LP, well, first of all, no one's been more pro-Israel than I have been. That's something I was taught in Sunday school, taught by my parents as well. No one's fought harder against anti-Semitism than I have. I've been calling for it. I think I was the first one to call for this anti-Semitism commission and trying to get some Kansans actually to lead that commission as well. When I think of Qatar, I want your listeners to remember what they've done for America. Let's go back to the debacle of the Afghanistan evacuation. 120,000 people were evacuated in an emergency situation. Qatar opened up the airfield base, which they've given to the United States since 9/11. And 60,000 people touched that Air Force base on their way home. Without that, I think thousands of Americans would have died. I think about Qatar's role recently. Freeing American hostages, Qatar largely responsible for that. Over 100 Israeli hostages released basically by the efforts of Qatar. And just remind everybody that President Trump and his Middle East envoy both think that Qatar has been a great ally, a great helper as we try to find peace in the Middle East. I think that we as Americans, I think we do have some prejudice against people from the Middle East, especially Muslims. The Qataris are basically a very peaceful group of people that value family, that value faith as well. So, I'm pro-Israel, but I'm also pro-American allies, and Qatar's been a great ally to America, especially since this Afghanistan withdrawal issue.
So would you say that they are not then sheltering any of these leaders? Is that your contention then?
Well, think about this. America asked Qatar to host the people that they're referring to. So America asked Qatar to do that for whatever reason. I think more than 20 years ago as well. I think sheltering is the wrong term. I think that there are some people there that Americans would have significant disagreements with that are in Qatar right now. But again, America asked Qatar to this pseudo embassy up for these people, and it allows us an opportunity to talk with them rather than just kill each other. Look, I think the ultimate goal here is that we stop the killing in the Middle East, we stop the killing in Ukraine as well.
Roger Marshall on KCMO Talk Radio. Well, Senator, it is always great to have you here. And I know you're following the Royals from afar after the opening weekend. They lost 2 or 3 to Cleveland, but we're optimistic they're going to turn things around.
Yeah, the bright spot was that second game we won. Our relief came in and shut them down for 4 innings, 4 scoreless innings. For the Royals to win, we have to have good relief pitching, and we got to come back that the NFL draft is approaching soon as well, so we got to come back and talk about that as well.
We will do that. You're right. That is coming up here just a couple of weeks away. Can't believe it. Senator, it's going to be a very busy week in D.C. We appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for putting up with the sound. I'm out here at the Tidal Basin. It's Cherry Blossom Week, and we're doing some live hits from down here. So sorry about the extra noise.
No problem at all. Thank you, Senator. Have a great week.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right, Roger Marshall on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. He's already in NFL draft mode. Chase, 1 week at a time.
Wonder if he's done a mock draft yet.
We got to see that Roger Marshall mock draft. Who needs, what's his name with the big forehead? Mel Kiper. Who needs that guy? I need the Roger Marshall mock draft, not
Didn't
the Mel
we have
Kiper.
a conundrum last year where he was in session or something when the draft was going on, it seemed like?
Yeah.
He was trying to keep tabs remotely for some reason. I can't remember where he was, but he was trying to look it up while he was doing other things.
You may be right about that. Oh, man. 913-408-7957. It's 8:16. It is great to be here on a Monday morning on KCMO. Mayor Lucas found himself in a headline piece, national media piece over the weekend when it comes to federal employees potentially losing their jobs. We'll share with you the expletive that the mayor had in the piece that I can't say on the air next.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
We got edgy Mayor Lucas in comments to Politico over the weekend. Headline here, America's Got Talent. Inside the scramble to hire federal workers fired by DOJ. And yes, Mayor Lucas got a pretty premier spot in this big piece at Politico. Starts off here in federal buildings. The arrival of DOJ has been a crisis. City halls and state houses see an opportunity. The question is, who can take advantage of it? As Elon Musk's team has thrown thousands of federal employees unexpectedly on the job market, governors and mayors see an unprecedented chance to bolster their ranks. It has set off a coast-to-coast scramble for experienced talent for everything from park rangers to procurement officers that could reshape the workings of state and local governments nationwide. So this premise of this piece is antithetical to everything they've told us for the last 2 months. The whole premise was, you can't fire anybody from the federal government. How are they going to live? How are they going to survive? This is the wrong thing to do. Oh, you mean it turns out if you lose a job, if you have skill sets, you can apply them to another job somewhere else? Wait,
Talk about a bombshell.
that can't be true.
Should we burden these people with their dedicated service to the government with this private enterprise stuff, though? Should they be burdened with that?
With this idea of like capitalism and chasing a new job and like, I'm sorry, but getting a job with the federal government doesn't mean that you have a job for life. And if you thought it meant that, then that's on you. And if the government promised you that, well, guess what? That was a promise that you should have never believed or bought into. Because the private sector and those of us in it know all too well about losing a job and getting cut from a position. And like these marches that are happening over the weekend in downtown Kansas City, like, oh my, as if the average working stiff in Kansas City is sitting here aghast over the idea of a bureaucrat losing a job when most people in the private sector are like, welcome to my world. And oh, by the way, we're the ones who fund you. I have never seen such lack of diversity at these rallies in my life as I see downtown over the weekend and at the Tesla dealership. I mean, it's like 60 plus, white hair across the board, people who haven't seen the sun in 15, 20 years. That's what it is. Let's be very clear on this. That is now the base as well of the anti-DOJ, anti-Trump movement. It's like washed up hippies who stopped smoking pot for a little bit and realized they can't stand Trump and now have woken up and decided they're going to protest outside of Tesla, who they loved 5 minutes ago.
Well, now in fairness, Pete, since smoke is legal, you got to have some place to go after you get some.
Well, right? That's a good point.
Look, here's some people walking in the circle.
Just stay on the east side of State Line Road. Don't go to the west side.
Touche.
You got to stay on the east side of State Line Road, okay? So here's the Quentin Lucas part of this Politico piece. Kansas City, Missouri Mayor Quentin Lucas this month ditched officials in Washington to get coffee with a federal worker in Union Station he's trying to lure into a potential role with the city. In a matter of days, the city sped up its hiring process just to fill an open city auditor role with a preferred candidate newly available, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State who led the State Department's arms control compliance efforts. Lucas told Politico, here we go. You've got people that are, in their industries, rock stars. Our big pitch is, if you want to continue in public service, you don't actually have to keep dealing with all the drama and the bleep BS. But it says the word spelled out here. Yeah, because Kansas City has no drama whatsoever, right? Kansas City has no bull, in his words. Yep, there's no bull here.
Nothing going on right now.
No, we're not like firing city managers while members of City Hall are upset that a white guy was hired over a black female. There's no BS to speak of in this town. Everything's on the up and up. Everyone's swimming in the same direction. Everyone loves each other. There's no drama. There's no bull. Who are you BSing? That's what I want to know. Hey, there's someone BSing. There's a lot of BS coming, and there's some BS in that piece, and it comes from the guy who I respect for coming on the show, but that's BS right there. That's what that is. That's straight BS. But once again, to pull it all back, this is antithetical to what they told us was going to be the case. Somebody lost their job with the federal government. Kansas City is now looking to hire them. The mayor has made a pitch to hire somebody who he believes can be an asset to this community. That's how the marketplace works. Welcome to the real world. This is okay. This is not worth your dopey protests downtown. This is not worth your sign waving at 13th and Oak, where these rallies were held over the weekend. This is not worth your time. I promise you it's not. Because as much as this article is intended to make Doge and Musk and Trump all look bad, it actually is proving out what most people believe to be true. Those with talent who lost their jobs from Doge cuts for one reason or another will find new ones. Because that's how it always goes in a free market economy. Susan Humphreys was at the Kansas Capitol for the satanic mass that took place on Friday. She'll give us the Ground Zero report next.
KCMO, Kansas City's place to talk on 95.7 FM and 710 AM, a Cumulus media station.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Well, the markets just opened up as we get set for, as Trump calls it, Liberation Day, Tariff Day, April 2nd. He didn't want to make it April 1st because he did not want people to perceive it as an April Fool's joke. So the Dow is down 300 points to open up. Once again, that's less than 1%. S&P is off 1.3%. NASDAQ is off 2+%, about 400 points right now for the NASDAQ, the heavy hit thus far this morning. So we will, of course, monitor that as we get another week underway here on KCMO Talk Radio. Let's go to the state capitol. On Friday, there was the Black Mass that took place outside, and that was done by a bunch of Satanists. The good news is that it looked like Christians showed up and far outnumbered the Satanists. Susan Humphreys, state representative out of Wichita, was there on the ground on Friday. She now joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. Susan, great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming back. And take us through what Friday afternoon was like in Topeka at the state capitol.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We live in an apartment close by, so I walked over to the grounds that morning, and there was I'm going to say small contingent of the Satanists where the governor had said they could be, which was over on the east steps. And there were hundreds, I will say, of Christians in small groups on the edges up against the fence that the highway patrol had put up, praying, singing, American flags, Christian flags, and there was a large presence of state troopers there and the Capitol Police. And it really it didn't feel foreboding. It felt a lot of activity. And then once I got inside the Capitol, it was pretty peaceful. Again, lots of presence of law enforcement and small groups of people around. They were still doing tours of the Capitol. That was probably around 10 in the morning, and I think the Black Mass was supposed to start at 11.
So then the Black Mass itself, what happened? Where did that all transpire, and what did it end up looking like?
Yeah, I don't think it really happened. I don't think there was any sort of ritual that went on. When I was watching from above that section of the steps, it was more just folks milling around, kind of actually Satanists walking over and observing what the Christians were doing. There was a really formal ceremony that a group of Catholics were participating in on the south side of the Capitol, and they walked over and looked, and I didn't see any organized ritual until a little bit later when the main guy did go into the Capitol, and as far as I could tell, he was alone. He was on the first floor. I was up above, and he had a book that he was holding up and chanting a little bit, and you probably saw the video, but a young man tried to grab the book and a couple different times, and he smacked him in the jaw a couple of times, and the Capitol Police or state troopers tackled him and let him out. And that was the main altercation that I heard. I was up above, so I heard it but didn't see it.
Yeah, that would be the satanic leader who was there, Michael Stewart. I saw that he got arrested on Friday as well. So what were the numbers like when you talk about the Satanists who actually showed up for this thing that had gotten, I guess, some hype leading up to last Friday, but certainly didn't seem like they achieved their goal?
No. When I looked out and I was watching, and then I was sitting on a bench in front of the Capitol, I thought there were maybe 30 Satanists in that area. And there were, I will say, hundreds of Christians. And that was the most striking thing. It was all groups. It was the traditional Catholics. It was women, older women in smaller prayer groups. It was the more bold folks that came from churches. Probably they were in some type of recovery and were just happy to be able to praise Jesus during all of this time. I mean, it was such an outpouring of unity among the Christians. It was amazing.
That is great. Susan Humphreys, state representative out of Wichita, was there to see this all unfold firsthand, joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Do you know, Susan, what the intended goal was of these Satanists outside of getting some, I guess, media attention? Was there any other clear goal that they had in terms of why they were in Topeka and at the state capitol on Friday?
I think it was a couple things. One, I do think it was a publicity stunt in a way. And then it was a direct attack on the Catholics. There was a Catholic mass going on across the street, but because they called it a black mass, it was a direct attack on Catholics and the advocacy that the Catholic Church is participating in the Capitol as far as, a very culture of life. And I think it was an attack on that. Because of that, it was an attack on all Christians, not just Catholics, but they were targeted, I would say.
Okay. Now, Governor Kelly did temporarily ban protests inside just for Friday, and this came in the wake of this group scheduling its indoor ceremony for Friday. Do you think the governor handled this appropriately in the wake of what happened and transpired?
I think there was a little bit of a misstep in that during COVID, we really kind of let up on some of the regulations that you had to have a sponsor to be inside the Capitol. And so they were able to reserve a space on the rotunda first floor at the beginning because they didn't need a sponsor. I don't think anyone would have sponsored them. And the governor, along with the leadership of the House and the Senate, did move the event outside, which I think was great. And I think now there will be some more stringent regulations and things as far as who gets to get a permit to come into the Capitol. They're going to have a sponsor. And so, it kind of fell into place the way it did. I think it could have been handled a little bit differently, but as it turned out, it was okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then really anybody can be outside of the state capitol, but this is referring to inside of the state capitol, right?
Yes, and I don't know if you need a permit to be on the grounds if it's a formalized event. And the governor said no rituals on the property. And I think that makes a lot of sense, too.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to see how that plays out as far as do we need that in regulations or statute or, how is that going to go from here on out? But we're aware now and we'll take action, I'm sure.
All right. Well, we will see how it plays out. I guess this guy, this leader of this Satanist group was arrested but released on Friday. So we'll see what his future holds. Was he a Kansas resident, by the way? Do you know that?
As far as I know, yes. He
Okay.
calls himself the Kansas something or another, And he showed up before. He showed up at our March for Life in January when we had hundreds of people outside on the steps, and he was walking around with his signs and obscenities, yelling his obscenities. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I like that name for him. The Kansas something or another. That sounds like a very appropriate name for him. I like that. Well done. Susan Humphreys out of Wichita. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the perspective and the time on KCMO.
Thank you, Pete, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well done by Susan Humphreys out of Wichita. Yeah, the Kansas something or another Satanist character looking for attention. Well, how about that? Christians outnumbering the Satanists hundreds to 30. Wonder if the Star will tell that story. Or are they too busy waxing poetic about the downtown marchers and Tesla protesters? I don't know. Trying to figure that out. Coming up, we will tell you about a very cool event, arguably the biggest event in KCMO Talk Radio history that we will be doing coming up here in about 2.5 months. Tickets are not on sale yet. They will be in 1 week. We just want to tell you about it first, next on KCMO.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, we're happy to announce that we have arguably the biggest event in KCMO Talk Radio history, at least in my tenure. I won't speak to prior, but in my tenure, which we start year 8 of this show coming up on Wednesday. We are going to have Guy Benson, our afternoon host on KCMO, making the trip to Kansas City for an event that we are calling the first 147 of 47. You see what we did there. It'll be about 147 days of the Trump administration for number 47. It will be an event Thursday, June 12th at Boulevard, and it will include drinks, photo opportunity with Guy Benson, plated dinner. The program will run from about 7 to 8:30, and there will be a complimentary group of beers and wine and a take-home pint glass, and tickets will be going on sale later this week. So we will get you all the details. 7 a.m. Friday, they go on sale here on KCMO Talk Radio at our website, kcmotalkradio.com. So join us, Guy Benson. Don't worry, I'm going to twist Keatsman's arm to get him involved with this as well, which is not going to be hard. Kevin's he's a man of the people, man. He loves going out.
Yeah.
He wants to be out. He wants to have a good time. He's the one who helped us devise the watch party for the State of the Union, or not the State of the Union, the inauguration. So Kevin's always looking to do stuff like this and meet the folks. So I know he's going to be involved. But it will be Thursday, June 12th. And the tickets are not yet on sale, but they will be later this week. Guy Benson coming to Kansas City for what is going to be an exclusive KCMO Talk Radio event. Of course, I will be out there as well with him Thursday, June 12th. So mark the calendar, and the tickets will go on sale later this week. And it's going to be a smaller group. We're only going to have probably, we got room for a couple hundred people. So we're not going to blow this thing out. It will be pretty exclusive to hang out with Guy, meet him, get a photo, and the whole deal, John.
I've got plenty of time to find something to wear to this event.
Yes, yes.
I missed all the protests.
Yes. You will have about 2.5 months to figure out what you want to wear.
But modest, since it's Guy, something like that.
Yeah, I think Guy would appreciate that look from you, John. And Mark will show up in a Chiefs hoodie and a Chiefs hat like he does, or maybe Royals.
Yeah, depending on the day.
Sure.
But not sporting because you want the head coach fired.
Yeah, if they fire him, maybe I'll wear a sporting hoodie or something.
What about your current gear?
I'll wear a current hat, maybe.
Maybe a current, I don't know. You don't look good in teal, Mark. It's not your color. Then again, I don't know who does have the color teal high on their list.
Say who looks good. Not a lot of us.
So that's coming up, and it's the only major event. We don't have any Politics and the Pints planned anytime soon, so this is the big event that we've got here, at least for the first half of the year. So go to kcmotalkradio.com. Tickets will go on sale later this week. And remember, you're getting dinner out of this deal. You're getting complimentary drinks out of this. You got the pint glass from Boulevard. You're getting the photo with Guy, and you're getting the program. So that is where you will find all the tickets and information at kcmotalkradio.com. Check it out there. That will go on sale later this week. In the meantime, I saw this. Snow White continues to be a disaster for Disney at the box office. Speaking of entertainment, my gosh, Snow White, the numbers are in for week 2. Did just $14 million domestically in its second weekend. That is a 66% decline from the opening weekend. And this movie is on its way to losing hundreds of millions of dollars. The film has now just earned $67 million domestically, $143 million worldwide, according to a new report from Variety. Now, that would be solid for a lot of films. It's not a good job by Disney, who now is expected to lose upwards of, give or take, from what I'm seeing, $250 million on this movie. Now, I know, Mark, your daughters are like prime age for Snow White. Mine are too, but mine are younger, so they don't know about Snow White unless, of course, I tell them about the new Snow White movie. But your daughters are a bit older, and they didn't even know there was a new Snow White movie.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw the lady that plays Snow White pop up on a YouTube video, was singing a song, And I said, hey, you know who that is? And my middle daughter, Riley, didn't know who it was. So, yeah, I was like, you guys don't know about the new Snow White? And neither my 12-year-old or 9-year-old knew about the new Snow White, which I found very interesting.
You would think that they would be getting bombarded with different ads. You know, I know they're not on like phones all day, but they would be getting some targeted ads, or at least it might come up in the classroom, right? Where kids would be like, hey, did you see the new Snow White? Mom and Dad took me to see Snow White.
I don't think that's going on.
Well, not around here. And this is, of course, driven by Rachel Zegler, who plays Snow White, who had some very controversial political comments in the last few months. And that caused much of conservative America to turn on her. John, what are you laughing at?
Well, there were some politicals. There were some that were just dumb.
Well, yes.
Like she didn't even like the story. I don't know why she went out for the part.
Yeah, that's right. She ripped on Snow White and the whole story.
Waiting for a man.
Yeah.
No, you know.
Yeah, like, why'd you go for it?
Yeah, why'd you?
Well, because it pays well. That's right.
I suppose.
Yeah, that's why.
Well, that makes her. Never mind.
No, well, she did go on to say about Trump that may Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. She eventually apologized for those statements, but this is that fine line. Like, you're allowed to, I guess, feel that way. I think it's a pretty horrible way to feel about somebody who voted differently from you, but you're allowed to feel that way. But this is where Disney also has a job to say, wait, you are about to be the face of one of our largest franchises, Snow White. The people that we want to take their kids to these movies are going to be, obviously, people with young children, parents. Parents in America in 2025 are overwhelmingly more likely to lean to the right than they are to lean to the left. The base of those who would agree with Rachel Zegler's comments are single, under 30, with blue hair and 4 PhDs, or they're over 55, might still have blue hair, more likely to have white hair, but don't have kids anyway who are little, who are going to be going to the movies, or they're going to be taking to the movies, or have the ability to use their discretionary income to pick and choose what they want to spend it on. Rachel Zegler's political comments killed this movie. Let's be clear. And when the person that you are trying to get to spend their money on your product is more likely to be the person that you have insulted, that the main character has insulted, you've got yourself in a world of hurt. And that's exactly what Rachel Zegler did. And frankly, if Disney had any stones, any backbone whatsoever, there would be some ramifications for this and against Rachel Zegler, so it doesn't happen again. But instead, what it seems like they're going to do is chalk this one up to a big loss, whistle past the graveyard, and say, well, I hope we learned a lesson here. If I'm Disney, I'm putting this in my contracts for my big stars. You make any kind of political comment like this, guess what? That big check we're writing to you, that ain't happening anymore.
It's a lesson writ large for Hollywood in general. We've had controversies over Wicked in the poster and the green face and blah, 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 you know. We've had people say, I don't need Trump people to go see my movie. And they don't, and it disappears.
And then no one goes to watch it. But when you're Snow White, man, it is hard to screw up not making money for Snow White. But somehow, Disney and Rachel Zegler, with the big assist, managed to do it. Way to go, everybody. Way to go. Meantime, back here in Kansas City, you got to hear from some of these Tesla protesters. They're a doozy. Next. God bless our local TV reporters. They got to go out there and they got to get dumber talking to these people at these protests. It really is a sad deal for them. Oh, my goodness. They do not get paid enough to go out there on a Saturday afternoon and stand there on State Line Road and talk to these people about why they're protesting in front of a Tesla dealership.
Never forgave her for it, but Joan Rivers made the point that the America gets dumber the more you go into the middle, with Kansas City being the apex.
Well, we lived up to it on Saturday.
Yeah, there you go.
We got the dumb were out and about on Saturday afternoon. The weather was great, so they crawled out of their holes, put on their masks, and protested along State Line Road, and also had a little march downtown against Trump and Elon. But Channel 9, KMBC, was right there in the thick of it on Saturday, and here is what it sounded like.
I think there's a lot going on that is not correct. It's not constitutional.
I disapprove of Elon Musk having the role he has in government.
The Kansas City protest, one of more than 200 nationwide, all targeting Tesla dealerships.
Elon Musk has an unelected influence on this country.
He should not be there in D.C. doing the things that he's doing.
He's just firing people to fire people. And a lot of those people are veterans.
Some of the protesters on Saturday say they sold their Tesla.
I owned a Tesla from 2020 till last month.
I drove around one day and I didn't want to be in a symbol of what the government is representing.
You just give them the power and let them do what they want to do. I don't appreciate that.
Man, I don't know who those people are. I'm just going to call them Triggered 1, Triggered 2, Triggered 3, and Triggered 4, since we heard from 4 voices there. So Triggered 1 goes on the note that they don't think that Elon Musk should have the role that he has. Well, guess what? Donald Trump campaigned with Elon Musk. It was pretty evident he was going to have a role like this. And then the American people voted for it. They voted for it when it comes to the popular vote. They voted for it when it comes to winning 7 out of 7 on swing states. They voted for Elon Musk having maybe not this role in particular, but a role of this ilk. And then trigger number 2 goes on the note that they don't think Elon should have this influence. I didn't see their protests around George Soros the last few years. Maybe you did and I missed them. But when George Soros was going out there and buying radio stations and radio groups like he did with some of the competitors here in Kansas City, I didn't see a big freak out from these people worried about political influence when Soros is buying the majority stake of one of the largest radio groups in America that also operates a bunch of radio stations in Kansas City. I didn't see their protests downtown. I didn't see their protests outside of the Odyssey building over there in Mission. I didn't see any of that. Now, I could have missed it. I don't get to every news story in this town, but I'm pretty sure that's one that I would have at some point seen or come across. But it didn't happen. So what they really mean is they don't like Elon's influence because they don't like what he's doing. They don't actually care about influence. They don't care about somebody who's unelected having power over politicians. They don't care about that one bit. They care about this because it's Elon. And then we'll go to trigger number 3 there. That guy said he sold his Tesla. Not all heroes wear capes. Gosh, what a legend. He got rid of his Tesla. I wonder if he's going to be like Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, who sold his Tesla and then bought himself a gas-guzzling Tahoe, which is what he said he always wanted anyway. So you're telling me you were just driving the Tesla to what? Fit in? Appear sufficiently woke until it was no longer woke to drive a Tesla because of Elon Musk? Like, I'm just trying to make sense of it. So I wonder if that guy bought himself a gas guzzler, air quotes, after he sold his Tesla.
Jeez, virtue signaling can be expensive in this economy, can't it?
Oh, see, that's the beauty of virtue signaling, though, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. You do it to appease certain people, and then once it's no longer cool to do it, you really don't have to justify why you're not doing it anymore. You just kind of can go about your day, and your side is never going to call you out over the nonsense and BS. You just keep on going, baby. It's great.
It goes the way of Pogs and Tamagotchi pets and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And
Pokemon card.
Yep,
Although
those are back.
They're back.
Yeah, well, they're huge.
My daughter broke them out the other day. I forgot she got like 3 Pokemon cards from someone on Halloween. Now, if you're giving out Pokemon cards, I'm sorry. You got a problem.
There may be a sign in the front yard somewhere.
But she's like, who's this one? I'm like, oh, that's Pikachu. Wow, take me back to my youth in the late 90s here.
Exactly.
It's getting weird. But it's like, man, these people don't realize how absurd they sound. I got to imagine these TV reporters show up on the side of State Line Road on Saturday, and they're like, hey, who wants to do an interview? Me. I want to be on TV. Me. And they're fighting to get in line. And the reporter's like, oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah, it's like American Idol, right? They're doing their cheers and chants. And, okay, you're in.
Here's the problem. They all think they're Carrie Underwood, but they're all William Young, right? She bangs. Give me a little William Young, would you, Mark, into the break, please?
Oh, yeah.
All right, set that up for me. I need that to feel good on a Monday. But yes, as the texter says here, 5,000, a bunch of useful idiots. That is true. The problem is, the biggest problem is usually a useful idiot has some type of knowledge that they're being used as a useful idiot. I don't think these people have any clue that they're being used as useful idiots. And here's part 2 of this report from Channel 9.
It was a group of more than 250 people protesting outside Tesla on State Line Saturday. They say their goal the same as the national goal on this day.
We're just trying to drive down the stock price as much as possible, and then hopefully he'll stop doing what he's doing.
I believe that if Elon starts to suffer enough of the financial consequences, he'll start to reconsider his role in our government.
You shouldn't be able to buy America, and so that's why we're protesting Elon today.
In Kansas City, Alan Shield, KMBC 9 News.
So one guy says there, I guess that would be triggered 5 or 6. I'm not sure which number we're up to at this point. But he goes, I hope that we hurt Tesla to the point where Elon leaves the government. Now, here's the thing. Elon's really the face of Doge. But if Elon leaves tomorrow, Doge is going to continue. As we saw last week on that Bret Baier interview, there are, give or take, about 10 people that are really the ones who are getting their hands. I mean, there's a lot more than that, but there are 10 people right under Elon who sat with him for the interview last week with Bret Baier, who are highly successful individuals, who are the ones who are getting their hands dirty and leading Doge at different levels of government, trying to find the waste, fraud, and abuse and get rid of it. So Elon could leave tomorrow and Doge continues. And that's what I think a lot of these folks also are not understanding.
Let's say it today. Elon will be leaving.
Yes.
Eventually.
Yes, he will go.
So it won't be, we won.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That'll be the story. It's a war of attrition and we wore him down.
Yeah.
No. He's leaving eventually.
And I would say it's just a matter of, is it 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months? That's what we're looking at right now. He's put his timeline, I think he once said it was 12 to 18 months, so maybe it's in the early next year, but it could be as early as this fall. Who knows? I don't know what exactly it's going to look like. I do know this. You cannot, on one hand, also say, man, these Trump tariffs are killing the stock market, and then say, I'm here to protest to drive down Tesla stock. When Tesla is one of the Magnificent 7 stocks, that is a big driver of people's, if they've just got an S&P fund in their 401k, Tesla is going to be a percentage of that. So you can't be like, Trump's killing the stock market with tariffs, but I'm here on the side of State Line Road to drive down Tesla stock to hurt Elon to get him out of the government. You cannot have it both ways. On the text line, Pete, Mark Kelly selling a Tesla and buying a Tahoe is virtue signaling, but Ted Cruz buying a Tesla and posting it on his social media is, of course, not virtue signaling. I didn't see Ted do that, but that's also virtue signaling. Yes, that's fair. You're right about that. That is Ted Cruz virtue signaling. I am not going to buy a Cybertruck because I like what Elon Musk is doing with Doge. One, it's $100,000, and 2, it's ugly. It looks cool on the inside, but it's ugly on the outside. So I'm not making a decision on buying a car based on what I think Elon is doing for the government, which I do respect and I do like. But I don't make car decisions like that. So yes, I would agree with you there, Texter. Mm-hmm. I will give it to you that Ted Cruz is also virtue signaling. Now, will you give it to me that Mark Kelly is full of garbage? when he's selling his Tesla and buying a Tahoe? Come on now.
My only point was that it's expensive. It doesn't matter which party you're in. It's just expensive, the virtue signal.
Well, that's true as well. 913-408-7957. And let's take into the break with a little William Hyung, who was the inspiration for all the protesters over the weekend. They thought they were Carrie. Instead, they were this guy.
She bangs, oh yeah. When she moves, I go crazy. She looks like a plum, but she stings like a bee. Like every girl in history. She bangs, I'm wasted by the way she moves.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, this guy's horrible. A legend, but he's awful. Oh, my goodness. It's 9:15, and listen, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, what do I need to get done this spring? Well, you might be thinking it's time for that bath or shower or tub remodel. And let Steve and my friends at the Plumbing Pro help you with that today in Kansas City. Now, they are offering up Pete's deal. What does that mean? That means $2,000 off your project when you use the Plumbing Pro, and 12 months, same as cash on approved credit. So if you're like, it's finally time to get that tub or shower replacement, go to theplumbingpro.com. That is theplumbingpro.com. And call Steve and his team out there to free consultation. They'll make sure that you're taken care of. They've been doing this in Kansas City for 45 years. They got a 4.8 rating on Google, nearly 400 Google reviews. I mean, you don't build a local business that's locally owned and operated and have this kind of success if you're not doing a great job. And that's why we're happy to be partnered with them, and that's why the Pete's deal is worth taking advantage of right now. $2,000 off 12 months, same as cash with the Plumbing Pro. Call them 816-763-8200 or the website, theplumbingpro.com.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
You know what fascinates me, too, about all this? These protests at these Tesla dealerships, including here on State Line Road, big one on Saturday. The same people that said or are saying, oh, my goodness, you could never fire a federal worker.
How dare you?
They think it's like the most offensive thing that could ever happen. Somebody losing their job, which, hello, welcome to the private sector where it happens on a regular basis, are now making life hell for these Tesla employees who are showing up to work every day, many of whom have had this job probably long before Elon Musk was anything in the Trump administration, which has only been around for 2 months at this point. And they now have to navigate this insanity. You've got people who are showing up to the dealership to get their tires rotated who have to deal with this insanity, many of whom may have voted for Kamala Harris and are just innocent citizens who happen to own a car that these protesters do not like the owner of. And they're saying, oh, we need to be sympathetic to the federal workforce, but we're fine with the idea of treating innocent Americans who have literally done nothing wrong like crap because they own a car of somebody we don't like and or they work for somebody that we don't like because the individual is trying to lead the way on getting rid of $36 trillion in debt and reducing a $2 trillion annual deficit. 913-408-7957. Jeff is on KCMO. What's up, Jeff? Jeff, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Heading home today. Hey, this Mark Kelly out here in Arizona, like you guys said, it's all facade. He sold his electric car and bought a gas-powered car. So that tells me that Trump has got fuel down so reasonably now. You guys can all sell your electric cars, man.
Yeah. You know, Mark, that is Jeff, excuse me. That is a great point about Mark Kelly. It's like in a weird way, he's owning himself where gas is now a bit cheaper and he's able to fill up that gas guzzle in Tahoe because gas is down and he can feel good about filling up that tank once again. So go figure.
Yeah, he got punked. The old guys got punked.
It's well done there, Jeff. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. 913-408-7957. Safe travels back from Arizona. And he mentioned his senator out there, so I don't know if he's technically a resident of that state or our state back here in Kansas. Either way, he's coming back to plenty of drama here. So you can say goodbye to Mark Kelly and say hello to Laura Kelly, I guess. No relation, I will add. Just happen to have that same last name. Now, the KCTV5 package, if you haven't heard this from over the weekend, here it is.
And the anti-Elon Musk protests continue across the country today, including another one here in Kansas City. This is a look at this afternoon's Tesla takedown rally. Protesters at this rally are concerned about Musk's involvement in the Trump administration's efforts to downsize the federal government.
I'm extremely worried. I'm extremely worried about what's happening in our country. I think we have months, not years, to save what's our democracy. And the fact that I see it here, this many people, is inspiring.
He's very inspired. It's funny, too, how all the people who are standing there on the side of State Line Road, when people drive by and they honk, they assume the honkers are on their side. If I had driven by State Line Road, let's say I was going to get a sandwich from my buddy Jasper there on State Line Road, and I happened to drive past that Tesla dealership right up the road, I might have honked. Now, I wouldn't have been rude. I wouldn't have, given him the one-finger salute. I wouldn't do such a thing. That would not be nice of me.
Such a nice man.
So I wouldn't do that. But I might honk. And if they assumed that my honk was in support, well, that would be a misinterpretation of my honk. So this notion that all the folks honking are like, yeah, you guys are awesome, standing there at the side of the road in front of a Tesla dealership, I'd just be wondering which one's going to try to burn down a Cybertruck tonight. And we still don't have any information on who did that a couple of weeks ago. And you know that that's being investigated now by the FBI and the ATF. That is not being handled or not being led, I should say, by KCPD, John.
I think it was the guy that left the Coke in the White House. Like, are we going to find out who leaked the
Yeah, who's coming first?
Stuff? Yeah.
Who is going to be found first? The Coke in the White House guy or a gal, I suppose. Although, pretty confident it's one of the guys, I'm just going to say.
Come on, man. We had the Roe Wade leak.
Yeah.
We found that one out.
We haven't found out that person either. And also, we're waiting to find out who the Tesla dealer, Cybertruck firelighter is, who ran across the street 2 weeks ago. We don't have that person, so we are waiting on that as well. 913-408-7957. Pete, I have not heard Stephen Colbert crowing about his Tesla recently. Oh, Colbert's got to be selling that thing any minute, right? There is not a chance that Stephen Colbert is waking up every morning and stepping foot into his Tesla. There is no way. Not a chance.
Putting the bumper sticker over it that says, I hate Elon or whatever.
Yeah, well, that might be him. You're right about that. That might very well be Stephen Colbert. That guy is so far lost. There is not a chance that he's still doing that. See, I don't think he would put the sticker on there because he would feel so icky driving that thing. He just couldn't do it anymore. Travis, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the people who protest Elon. I'd like to go see them do that in a Middle Eastern country and see how well that goes for them. They disrespect the most American country, the most American company we have, and somebody with the highest IQ. These people probably don't even have an IQ a half of what Elon does. And he's doing this to save America. And if that guy who thinks we're losing democracy, go find out what it looks like in North Korea. Go find out in Palestine. Go find out in Eastern countries, and you'll see how great you have it here.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, my man. It's something that they lose sight of far too frequently. You're right about that. 913-408-7957. Trust me, we are not in danger of any new Mensa members coming out of that protest on Saturday. I promise you that much. Our caller of the day is coming up. Of course, Kevin Keatsman, uncanceled, takes over at 10.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Well, I know Keatsman's going to have more on this. Peter Vermees out as Sporting KC coach. Are you excited, John?
It's long past overdue, I think, in my mind, but I'm more casual as a fan. I know the Cauldron finally had enough out there at the Sporting KC at Children's Mercy Park, so that seemed to be the difference maker.
Okay.
My protest worked.
Your protest, yeah. Mark's all fired up. So, Mark, you thought it was time for this move to happen.
Yeah, I'm not a part of the Cauldron group, but I have friends that have season tickets in there, so I've gone to some games there, and they're pretty passionate, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know Keatsman will have more coming up at 10 o'clock, but you guys are telling me, too, they need a new head coach, which means they'll need a new assistant coach. And now that I am 1-0 as a kindergarten girls soccer coach, and thank you very much for the applause. 1-0 last season as an interim coach. And on Saturday, we won 7-3, but don't tell the girls they don't keep score. It's kindergarten soccer. I'm 1-0 as an assistant. I guess I'm 2-0 overall, so I've got a chance since I'm 2-0 as an assistant/interim kindergarten girls soccer coach.
Yeah, well, we're not really exactly bothering the scorekeeper in the MLS this season either, so not keeping a score would not be a detriment to you.
Yeah, you got to put your name in the hat at least.
Okay. All right. Well, if you guys want to twist my arm into doing it, I just might have to do it. I know we start year 8 of this show on Wednesday, but if we don't make it, it's because I'm now joining Sporting KC as the top assistant coach. Do they call them coaches or what do they call them? Managers? What do they do?
Manager.
Okay. All right. I'll get my lingo down in time for the interview. All right. Sound good? It's 9:36. It's great to be here on 95.7 FM. Keatsman will have much more, I'm sure, to start his show. Peter Vermees out as the head coach of Sporting KC. Manager of Sporting KC, excuse me. Let's go to Mark. He's in Overland Park on the Tesla protest that continued this weekend on State Line Road. What's up, Mark?
Yes, good morning, Pete. Every time I see these protesters lining State Line outside the Tesla dealership, people don't realize there's a bunch of small businesses just to the south. There's a Popeyes, and there's a donut shop, eyeglass store, things like that. And that's not a very large parking lot to start with. And they're affecting the bottom line of these small businesses with all those nuts out there protesting. They're parking somewhere. It makes it difficult even just during a normal day to go in and try to get to some of these businesses. So they don't realize what they're doing. They're hurting Tesla and all the small businesses in that area.
It's a great point, Mark. Do you know, some businesses have this in certain shopping centers where I see there's a Popeyes there's a donut shop, there's a Sherwin-Williams paint store. Do some of those spots say parking for, let's say, Sherwin-Williams business only or anything like that?
They probably do. I eat at that Popeyes probably once every 2 to 3 weeks, and for lunch, and just realize how hard it is to get in and out of there. And then, do people abide by the signs? You can have them, but they'll just park there. It's like parking in a handicap spot. People don't care anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what. If that's the case, then you know what? The managers have to start calling. The police.
They have to enforce it. No,
I agree. They got to enforce it. If they want to keep on with these dopey protests on weekends when these stores are expected to be popping, I mean, when else is a paint store going to be popping outside of a Saturday? And now people can't get over there because, you got, blue-haired Karen parking her Subaru to go protest on the side of the road. I mean, get a life.
Well, if they're like me, I avoid the area. I'll go somewhere else just to totally avoid it. Even there might be a parking spot, but when I see them out there, it's like I don't want to be around that group of people.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Mark, you're right. They're hurting the small businesses, but, their hypocrisy knows no bounds.
Hey, maybe Jasper can send some of the homeless that are hanging out. He's just to the south of there. Maybe he could send some of those homeless people over to protest on State Line.
It's a great job. I will get right on that there, Mark. Well done, my man.
Have a great day.
All right, you too. I mean, I have been to that. There's a Panera just south of there that I've been to. There's also a couple other restaurants in the area. I've not
got Gates out there and Fritz's is excellent.
Yeah. The Gates is there. Jasper's been to both of those, obviously. But right in that immediate area, the closest I've been to is that Panera. So I can't speak to that parking lot in particular, but that's a great point by Mark. I mean, you got a Saturday afternoon, Got the Popeyes, you got the donut shop, you got the Sherwin-Williams paint store, and they're all probably getting impacted over these dumb protests that are taking place. 913-408-7957. It is that time of the morning. This all tied into our caller of the day on KCMO.
It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on FM at 95.7.
Tim is in Kansas City. He's on KCMO. Tim, good morning. What's happening, buddy?
Hey, I just wanted to comment on the protests about that one guy that said he was from the military and that I'm a veteran. I go to the VA here in Kansas City. They haven't cut anything. I mean, I can still go see my psych, and I can go see my regular doctor, and I don't know what the deal is. I got a feeling maybe that guy was just another paid person to say he was in the military or something, or a guy who doesn't even use it.
Yeah, and I think that was the guy they talked about who came from Illinois to Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm sure there's protests in Illinois, too.
Yeah.
So,
yes. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few of those in the Chicago area he could have gone to, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, and I would like to see Doge come to Kansas City, really. So, I work at the airport, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on with money and everything else. So I'd like to get to the bottom of it in Kansas City, Missouri.
Well, we got to get the right people in charge to do it, Tim. Thanks for your service, man. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Tim in Kansas City, our caller of the day, and he's right about that. You know, a lot of these protests, like the march downtown, was highlighted by people who claim that, oh my gosh, we're cutting federal jobs. How could we possibly do such a thing? This was in the New York Times over the weekend. What we know about cuts to the federal workforce, confirmed cuts, 49,000. There are nearly 3 million employees in the federal workforce. So we're talking about well under 2% that are confirmed cuts at this point. Well under 2%. And you listen to some of these protesters downtown over the weekend, and, I mean, you would think that half the federal workforce is gone. It's not what's going on. And if you want to make the case that, like, we can never potentially let go of anybody who is employed by the federal government, please run on that. Please make that a tenet of your party and make that a policy that will be 1A for you going into 26. And I promise you, it's not going to hit like you think it will. It is not going to hit. Brian's on KCMO. Brian, good morning. Go ahead, my man.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I was just going to say, I'm an Army veteran. I served in the Army for 20 years with a lot of federal employees. There's a lot of great federal employees out there, you know, that want to go the extra mile and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, the system's bloated. I think they're doing the right thing with the Doge stuff. I came out of the military. I started 2 businesses. I don't know where these people that are protesting, they've got the time to even do this protesting. I can't even get a day off, to be honest with you. So it kind of cracks me up. They got the time to go out there and sit around and do this kind of stuff. But I just wanted to point that out. You know, if they got the time to do that stuff, go out there, get a job, get a life. That was it.
Get a job and get a life. You can't, I mean, you can't.
How dare you?
You can't do that. You can't say that, Brian. I mean, you know, guys like you are hustling. And think about this, Brian. You're the guy footing the bill. Your businesses, your taxes are footing the bill for all this crazy.
I know. We all know that, but we know how it is. I mean, the system's bloated. I mean, that's the problem. We realize that. And, you know, I've heard it said by several people, whether you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're an independent, we all know that the system's too big. There has to be cuts made. But what we understand is if you ask a Democrat, okay, how are you going to cut it? They can't give you an answer. Mm-hmm. And if it was Obama, if it was Biden, if you asked them how they would have cut it, they can't give you an answer. We all know it needs to be done. But, you know, here we have Trump doing it, and we all know it's just about hating Trump and all that. And it is what it is, man. It is. Keep doing it. Keep driving on.
You're a great American, Brian. Thanks for the service. Keep hustling, brother.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Well done. Brian on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show with a wild coincidence and relationship that we just learned exists between a member of this show and somebody in the Trump administration. We'll get to it next.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM.
Well, the name is Frank Bisignano. Did I get that right, John, or no? Did I get his name right?
Frank Bisignano?
Bisignano.
Yeah.
I almost gave it a little Spanish flair, Bisignano,
Well,
but it's not
went
Nano.
by Bizzo when I knew him in the 70s.
Well, let's set this story up. Frank Bisignano is Donald Trump's pick to lead the Social Security Administration. He's found himself on Capitol Hill. He's been getting yelled at by Pocahontas. Whoa, 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 yo. Elizabeth Warren's been screaming at him on Capitol Hill.
Bernie's got a few questions.
Yeah, exactly. So he's getting that kind of a grilling right now. And he is a big Wall Street titan. He's given a lot of money to help get Donald Trump elected. He's been a longtime supporter of the Republican Party. And now he's potentially in line to be the next Social Security Administrator. And John Anthony drops me a little teaser text over the weekend telling me that he has a history with Frank Bisignano.
Yeah, I texted Pete and said, if you like my Ray Liotta story, which is I didn't recognize Ray Liotta when I saw him at a bar one time here in town, then you might like my Frank story. So I go to Baker. It's fall of 78, going into 79. That's era of time. I get to Baker, and my roommate in the dorm, assigned roommate, has not shown up. So I have my own room for a while, but you're supposed to pay extra for that. So eventually I was going to get a roommate one way or the other. Apparently, it just took a while. And I come in one day, it's just like maybe 79, first part of the year, and I got a new roommate. This is Frank Bisignano. Now, lots of people went to Baker with me know Bizzo. He's kind of a character. So people, you know, he was so, what I would say, we're from Kansas. He was very New York City. You know, the whole John Travolta thing, it was the era of Saturday Night Fever, Studio 54, the Yankees.
That would be weird enough or unusual enough in 2025 when the world shrunk. How does a guy from Brooklyn end up at Baker in 79?
Or as he would say, how'd I get over here? No. You know, it's interesting. I have to say, I just spent a semester with him. He's not my buddy or anything, and I'm not trying to big it up like that. In fact, if I went up to saw him face to face, I was telling Pete I'd have to give him probably 7 clues, and I imagine that he might say, "That was you? Get out!" It was just a brief time, but yeah, everybody knew Bizzo in New York. He was such a New York guy. Here in Kansas, we're all farm kids, you know, going, wow.
So Bizzo was your roommate for one semester in the spring of 79.
I think he was living off campus and something happened and they stuck him in the dorm. And so he got stuck in my room. And I learned things. My appreciation of Billy Joel's Turnstiles
came
CD
from Bizzo?
album. Yeah. He's a connoisseur of Billy Joel. I remember him going to the concert. He was out for several days. I didn't see Frank for 3 days after the Billy Joel show, I think.
Oh, that's amazing.
So he left Baker and went on to Newport. And then I'd seen he was on Wall Street from time to time. I thought, wow, who knew?
Yeah.
You know, and shoot, here he is now.
Here he is now, potentially set to lead the Social Security Administration. Well, we got to get him on the show, John. That's what's got to happen next.
Like I said, if I called and said my name, that was you.
I think we can make this happen.
I don't.
And you've got no faith in us, man. You've got no faith in yourself.
Some stories I haven't told where I'm not necessarily wanting to reach out to Frank.
Throw him under the bus? You don't want
to throw him under the bus.
He
may throw me under the bus.
Oh, he would throw you under the bus. Yeah. So do you have the kind of ammunition that Elizabeth Warren would be able to use against Bizzo?
I'll have to check statute of limitations. And beyond that, I'm going to plead the fifth and ask for my attorney present.
Oh, that is so great, man. Mark, aren't you getting a little jealous here? Can you think of whether or not one of your college roommates would ever be someone high up in the federal government one day?
Probably not a roommate. Maybe somebody that went to Mid-America, though, I could see.
You could see someone from Mid-America being high up in a Republican administration someday?
Yeah. We have some good people from Mid-America, so I could see eventually somebody getting there, but not a roommate.
Not a roommate?
Yeah, in January 79, if somebody would have walked into the dorm room at Horn Hall and said, one of you two is going to give the commencement speech in the future, I told Pete, I said, Frank probably would have looked at me and said, what'd you do? No, you know.
Was he a nice guy, though?
Yeah, no. He was one of those people, you know, you could tell he was a people person. He had grown up in Brooklyn in a multi-generational family, and his dad was an orphan, so he was very much about family and people. And, if you were in with Frank, you're in good.
That's great, man. I love this. So, Frank Bizzo, as
I don't know if he'd appreciate that anymore either.
We should call him that on the show and see if he likes it or not. That may not go well. Anyway, he started his career in New York City as a VP at Lehman Brothers and worked his way up, held executive positions at Citibank, and then was hired at J.P. Morgan Chase in 2005 under Jamie Dimon, who, of course, remains the CEO there. And then in 2013 became the chairman and CEO of First Data Corporations and worked his way up through the financial sector. He's consistently rated, per his Wikipedia, as one of the highest paid CEOs in the United States. His compensation in 2017, John, New York Times reported, exceeded $100 million.
So he's probably got all the Billy Joel CDs. I'm sure I've got, I know there's some Bakers guys that are people, alumni that went to school and I did that probably have a Frank story or certainly know a Frank.
See, how has Frank not built Baker into a football powerhouse? Now in the NIL world, he could single-handedly fund Baker and make it at least a basketball
Frank
powerhouse.
wasn't a sports guy so much.
Oh,
so,
he wasn't a sports guy?
Not so much,
Okay.
I don't think.
All right, well, maybe he could get Billy Joel to perform at Baker. Maybe that's what's coming.
That's probably as likely as anything.
Okay, well, that is amazing. Wow. How about that?
I was going to say, he probably knows Billy pretty well, I would think.
Yeah, well, geez, he's making more money than Billy.
We used to just play it on 8-track, but now he knows Billy.
Maybe we can get McCarthy back to Baker.
Yeah?
He's not coaching with the Cowboys anymore, right?
Is he a Baker guy?
Yeah, he was a Baker guy.
Really?
Yeah, Mike was a tight end at Baker.
How about that? Boy, Baker's got them all. Bizzo, Mike McCarthy, and John Anthony. What more do you need in life? How about
you
that?
got Johnny Rollins. We got a whole crowd.
Jeez, that's strong stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you learn something new every day. Bizzo, future guest here on KCMO. Kevin Keatsman, uncanceled, is next. Have a great rest of your Monday. We're back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. on 95.7 FM.